Mama, what if playing it safe was actually the biggest risk? You don't need to quit your job to build freedom, but you do need options. Join me today while I talk to my friend Lindsay about why multiple streams of income are for everyone and how to start building yours. Hey, mamas, welcome back to Mamas Building Businesses. I am joined by my friend Lindsay Harris today, and we are talking about a topic that I think is so important in today's economy, which is additional streams of income. Lindsay, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So we're gonna dive right in, but I do want to give a little I guess, intro to why I think this topic is so important. So, I recently read a Forbes article where they said that 71% of American households are looking for secondary streams of income
Mhm.
because it is so hard to make ends meet in our current economy. Um, and what I love about you is you're a school teacher, guys.
Yeah.
You see her in her classroom. And one of the things, if anybody has been following me for any amount of time, they hear me say a lot is that I'm obviously very passionate about business, but I don't believe that entrepreneurship is for everybody.
Mhm.
I think there are people like you who are very happy in your 9 to 5. Like I asked you a couple weeks ago, I'm like, do you think you'll ever retire yourself? And your response was like, I don't want to. I love my job. But I do think that additional streams of income is for everybody. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a teacher, you're a wife, you're a mom. Tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Okay, yes. So I am a wife. I am married to my husband, Dustin. We have been married for 6 years now. We have two beautiful children. Our son is 5 and our daughter is 2. I have been teaching for 14 years. I love what I do. I get to make money, have fun, and just enjoy what I do. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And guys, Lindsay and I know each other because me and her husband grew up together. And one of the reasons why Lindsay and I connected, and have established a friendship is because she's super into personal development. I mean, you and Dustin both are really into personal development. And it's just amazing to connect with like-minded people. And your daughter, she just turned 2, right? Because I saw
She
her
did.
birthday party. Yeah.
Yes, she did.
So you and Dustin, you both work full time.
Mhm.
Um, who knows what's going to happen down the road, but you love your job. You don't have a plan to necessarily leave it. However, you guys also have built incredible additional streams of income for your family. Airbnb, you own an Airbnb, you do some other side things. So tell me a little bit about when you first realized that you wanted or needed additional income.
I think it is just we're very goal driven as far as we always push ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. And so one thing that we thrive on is that we don't want to be doing our jobs for the rest of our lives. Like we want to be able to spend time later on, when we get to a point where we can retire and enjoy life, but not be too old to enjoy life. So, um, yeah, we were able to fortunately purchase an Airbnb, and it has been an incredible source of income for us, along with our daily jobs. And so that's been a blessing in disguise for sure.
I love that. And so a lot of people are extremely risk aversion, like, right? And they
Yes.
are afraid, like, well, what if I buy this and it doesn't? Or I think another thing is so many people want, I don't think you would ask anybody, like, do you want to make extra money? The answer is never going to be no. But there's a big difference between wanting something and taking action. So tell me, like, what that was like for you guys. Like, what made you decide to dive in? What made you decide that, the outcome is probably worth the risk?
Yeah, so Dustin is the big risk taker out of the two of us. I constantly think of the what ifs. So I think we balance each other out tremendously. So like, he wants to take the risk. I trust in him. Um, but just kind of just wanting more for our kids as well, and like being able to teach them that if you want something in life, you have to work hard for it. And so that's kind of another big push of why we chose to go that route.
Awesome. And how did you decide like, there's so many different ways, especially with the internet, like people promising you left and right that you can make extra money and you can make passive income. And, that's a whole conversation on itself because I think a lot of people hear passive income and it's very misleading. So, how did you guys decide, like, what was the right path for you? Like, when you decided to dive into Airbnb, for example, how did you decide that that was the right path for you guys?
Yeah, I think it did definitely involved a lot of learning more about opportunities that are out there, reading books. We were able to join a community of people who are really kind of focusing on finances and our economy right now and how inflation is just through the roof, and ways that you can kind of make that side income without working and trading in your time for money. And so one of those areas is that Airbnb that, you're getting that income in without having to trade time for money.
Yeah, I love that. So that's like the biggest thing that has pushed me in entrepreneurship in general is really learning how to make decisions where there's a long-term payoff. I think we're so conditioned in our society.
Mhm.
I actually heard this morning. So I listened to Myron Golden's Bible studies on YouTube in the morning, and he was talking about how, like, we are so conditioned in our society to trade our time for money that a lot of people, they aren't willing to put the work in if the payout off is long term, which is
Mhm.
kind of wild to me because when you really look at numbers for things like that, like for real estate, whether it's short-term rentals, long-term rentals, like whatever the real estate is, it's normally like this long-term payoff, right? Because you have a mortgage on it. But when you look at the numbers compared to like the actual amount of physical labor that is put in, like the payoff is exponential.
Right, right. Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting. So tell me a little bit about how building these additional streams of income and having the Airbnb has not only impacted your family financially, but how has it impacted your marriage? Because one thing I learned specifically from being in the military is when you build with somebody else, it creates a bond. Like whether it's going through some sort of like really harsh training, whether it's like whatever it is, it just creates a way different type of bond. And I feel like really builds a partnership up in a way different way than prior to it happening.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that question because it has definitely helped our marriage tremendously as far as increasing communication because we really need to. Who's cleaning the Airbnb this week? You know somebody who can clean, let's get them. And it definitely has helped us to have a purpose that we have created together and almost like a vision for our future. And we're on the same page. And so we're driving ourselves and pushing ourselves to further that purpose.
That's awesome. That's awesome because I know, especially when you work in two totally different, like you guys work in two totally different aspects of of your day jobs. Um, I can imagine that sometimes it feels disconnected. And it's funny, I think everything is about balance, but I interviewed a mama like a week ago, and her husband, they have a full-time business together and they literally spend, and I was like, well, how do you prioritize your marriage? It's like the same question, but in reverse.
Yeah.
So it's funny. And then just knowing that you have like the additional financial resources, how do you feel that has impacted your family as a whole? Like as far as like stress level, opportunity, how has that?
Yeah. So definitely an increase in freedom and kind of like a sense of just peace of like, okay, we don't have to really watch the spending as much. Not that we loosely spend it, but it's just not as much stress knowing that you have that additional source of income coming in. It's been super helpful because we know that when stress, is on us, it affects our mood, it affects everything that we do. So that's been super helpful,
And
to not have that extra stress.
yeah, and I'm sure too, like the stress, like the tension, one thing that I noticed when I shifted from, because I had a business where I was working like 14, 16-hour days. And when I shifted to like, okay, I'm only doing things that, give me a lot more flexibility with my time, I really was able to show up as a better parent. Like, I think like just having more patience with my kids, and I am like honestly, naturally, I'm a very impatient person anyway. But when you have stress and tension, it just automatically makes like communication be a little more tense. It makes your fuse be a little bit shorter. And also being able to be present with your kids. Like when you have a million other things on your mind, it's
Right.
hard to be present. So, do you feel like you've noticed that, like just as far as the kids too? Because your kids are young. I mean, they're at an age where they need a lot of attention. Like my kids are a little older and they like need attention when they want it, and then the rest of the time they ignore me. So,
Yeah, no, I think another thing for me too, that definitely holds true as far as like the tension's not there. I can be more present, but also what's helped me is just having a purpose. Like I know what my purpose is. It is to help teach these kiddos that like you have to work hard. You put in the work, you set those goals. Um, you just it just pushes me a little bit more to be there for them.
that's awesome. That's that's amazing. So, okay, so tell me for somebody watching this who, whether they're married, whether they're single, somebody who knows they need additional financial resources in their life, but maybe thinking about like owning a business stresses them out, or maybe they just really love their 9 to 5, but it doesn't provide everything that they need. So somebody who is thinking about adding additional streams of income, what is one piece of advice that you would give them?
Mm. I would say don't be afraid to take a risk. Okay, it's going to be scary at first. You're not going to be sure where you're going to find the time to juggle it all. But at the same time that, stepping out of your comfort zone is what you need to do in order to grow in any area of your life. So don't be afraid to do that. And then also like with that and figuring out how to juggle it all, you'll get better at it. And it will help like just push you to be a better version of yourself.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for doing this. And I think that, your experience is really invaluable. And I know that you and Dustin are going to go on to add a lot more revenue streams. It's kind of like you attack one until it's stable and then go to another.
Yep.
Um, and for anybody listening, I am going to put a link in the description to follow Lindsay on socials if you'd like to connect and just watch their journey and how they are building additional financial resources for their family. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Erica.
Awesome. See ya.
All right, see ya.